Welcome back to Brilliant Fools. This is Wednesday Q&A. We've got questions and we've got answers. Although the answers may be lacking in some instances because they're going to come from my own experience, mostly, which is fairly extensive, more extensive than I sometimes give it credit for, but it's also going to come from what I see in Scripture. And with anything that I say, there's two caveats. First of all, check it out for yourself. Don't take it at face value. Anything I say, and whether that's just my own interpretation of things and how things are, or if that's what I see coming through Scripture, don't just take my word for it. Go out, research it more, research it from other people, and especially go back to Scripture, anything that I say on it, and check it out for yourself. And man, let me know if it's way out of context or if I have misinterpreted it or something like that. Let me know. At any rate, beyond that, this is Brilliant Fools, and you can see us or check us out at brilliantfools.com, greenhouseghs.com. My name is Adam Green. That's Green with an E on the end, Greene. So that's greenhouseghs.com. That stands for Greenhouse Services. And I would love to have a conversation with you. I would love to talk with you about whatever it is that's going on in your business, whatever that is that's tugging at your heart, telling you there's something more that my business can be, and I want to get there. And if I can be of service to help you out understanding what that is, and how God might be using your business for His glory. I want to get you there and encourage you in that, and maybe get to some very practical ways of making that happen. And that could be a variety of things that could go into it. And we'll get to some of that as we go through some of these questions and answers. But some of the questions that I have lined out here, if you have any questions in particular, please leave a comment, shoot me an email, info@greenhouseghs.com, or go to Greenhouse GHS, fill out the contact form. If there's something that you would like answered, let me know that as well. But the first question here is, what do I do if I have an irregular revenue cycle, rising expenses, and maybe most of my revenue comes in at a certain time of the year, or it's just kind of irregular? Let's address just irregular revenue cycles first. And what I mean by that is, let me take Greenhouse, for example. I don't get paid unless I do some sort of service for someone, right? So revenue is going to be irregular. It could be the same thing for, let's say, a landscaping service. Not going to get paid unless you go out and do the service for someone. And if you're getting paid by the job, that's your revenue, right? And your revenue comes in as the jobs come in. Well, there are ways to make sure that those jobs are coming in more consistently. And that's going to be doing consistent things. It could be different for your business, but to give you an example, when I was doing accounting, and I was doing tax and accounting for someone, I would handle the blog posts. The blog posts themselves, I think, rarely ever got seen. Like, they didn't really get traction. I think there was good information in there, and we would take it from two different areas. We would take it from newsletters that our website provider, which provided websites for accountants, our website provider would provide a quarterly newsletter, and then I would handle just putting together a blog every month for a monthly kind of blog newsletter kind of deal. The information was good, but rarely ever seen or used. People didn't even know it existed. The important thing, though, for search engine optimization, SEO, was to just have it there and make sure it was going in. A large part of what that did, and I don't know if it was just that or if it was also that combined with Google advertisements that we did, but a large portion, or what ended up happening, is our search results kept creeping up on that first search page. That consistency helped, even in a tax environment, it helped to start regulating some of that, some of the income, some of the revenue cycle, because we would also do bookkeeping, we would also do payroll, and people started calling for those sort of things. They would search for an accountant in the area, and they needed a bookkeeper, so they found us. Our name came up quickly, and then they call us for bookkeeping. Now we've got a little more of a regular revenue cycle. Same thing for plumbing. Plumber I worked with for a while. Excuse me. A plumber I worked with for a while, one of the employees there kept a blog and kept consistent with it. He has since gone out and started his own company, but does the same thing. Just consistently posts. And whether people see it or not, it keeps up for whatever reason, whether it's in search results or it's even now artificial intelligence optimization, AIO. It bumps up those results and keeps those results bumped up. So it just helps out overall to be consistent in that. Just the consistency of little things shouldn't take long. Honestly, it could take you about 5 or 10 minutes to put something together, and you can have something quality enough to be consistent. Okay, so that helps a little bit. But let's say I am that accountant. Let's say I am that landscaper. What then? I've got a season, right? Pools. Okay, I worked for a pool store before for a few months, and what would you expect? You expect a pool store to be dead in the winter and booming and thriving all through the summer months. Okay, but what do you do after that summer month? You've got an irregular revenue cycle. How many pool stores do you see that diversify their offerings? And what I mean by that is two things. One, our pool store also sold hot tubs. And that helped, but not a ton. I mean, it helped. It was something. But really what a lot of pool places will do is they'll also be a fireplace, pool and fireplace. Those things don't really mix all that well, right? You have pools that get installed, and then you have fireplaces. And these fireplaces are not necessarily outdoor fireplaces. I mean, these are a lot of times indoor fireplaces. Very different kinds of services, but they know what to do here and there. I know a guy who was a landscaper, and during the winter months, what did he do? It was fall months, okay? His landscaping is going down. He's not doing as much work out there in the lawns. He starts hanging Christmas lights, using the same crews, keeping his crews working, hanging Christmas lights. A different kind of thing, but it's good for the season. Okay, so we can definitely diversify. There's a principle for this in Ecclesiastes. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 6, that says, "In the morning sow your seed, and in the evening don't withhold your hand. You don't know which one will prosper, whether this or that, or whether they both alike will be good." Excuse me. That's great to think about, but what if I am that tax accountant? What am I going to do? Well, like I said, you could do bookkeeping services, right? And payroll. One of the issues that you run into with that is once you have the bookkeeping and the payroll in place, even though it should smooth out the tax season a little bit because you've already got your records there, and there are things you don't need to ask as much for because you've got your financial statements, you've been doing the books for the year, you don't have to clean stuff up so much. It should be like a plug and play into the tax return. It never is a plug and play into the tax return, by the way. There's always something that comes up, right? It doesn't matter if you're doing construction or accounting. If somebody says the job is real simple, you're going to have major issues. That's just the way that works out. So it's never real simple. So I worked with a guy whose dad was a tax accountant. And this was actually at the pool store that I worked with. And this guy's dad did taxes during the tax season, and then he sold natural gas. in the off season. Now, those things are very different, completely unrelated. Sometimes we've got to think outside of the box on how to get our revenue cycles to be more regular instead of having all these irregular revenue cycles. How can we supplement it? In this case, where the guy was doing taxes and the natural gas, he actually ended up, I don't know if he sold off or just kind of stopped doing the taxes because the natural gas was the thing that actually was doing better for him and he enjoyed it more. So you never know. You never know which is going to prosper, whether this thing or that, or whether they both alike are going to be good. Like in the lawns and the Christmas lights, the pool and the fireplace. You don't know if they're both going to be good or one's going to prosper or the other. So being able to be flexible and not being married to one thing is a very important part, I think, of doing that. Again, any advice that I give here, double check me on all of it. And it's not meant to be legal advice or tax or accounting advice. Always consult your lawyers, your tax preparers, all of that kind of stuff. None of this. This is all educational. I'm just sharing my experience, what I've seen work, what I've seen not work. Okay, so let's say we've got the revenue cycle sorted, and now here's another question. I've got consistent plumbing customers, right? Coming in constantly. I can't even keep up with all the phone calls that are coming on. Can't schedule everybody. Great. Now I've got high turnover in the company, especially in those key roles that I'm trying. I need somebody on a van to be able to go out to those houses. I need them licensed. I need them this or that, right? But they keep turning over. Okay. What about in the accounting field? I need somebody who's going to be able to keep advancing and in their understanding, their knowledge, their ability to get things done, but they also need to be able to train the people underneath them, et cetera, et cetera. There's a couple of questions. When I hear about high turnover, I have two questions on that. The first one, every time, is how are you thinking of your employees? Because the question is this: if I think my employees are idiots and they just can't hold down, or they're lazy, this generation, oh man, this new generation coming in, they just don't want to do any work. They want everything easy, et cetera, et cetera. If all my employees are idiots, then I need to look at who's hiring all these idiots. I mean, that's the bottom line. If that's me, okay, maybe I'm the idiot. And it's not my employees that are the idiots. If that's somebody under me, it's still my responsibility ultimately to make sure that they're hiring the right people and they're going through the right practices. Maybe I need to adjust my hiring practices and ensure that I truly am valuing the character of the person, the authenticity of the person, not just trying to fill a role as quickly as possible so I can keep cranking, keep going. That can actually set me back longer than if I patiently pursue the right kind of person to be my employee. So what I tell my kids is, if you'll be patient, you won't have to wait as long. I tell myself that all the time too. Adam, if you'll be patient, you won't have to wait as long. And if you'll be patient in the hiring process, making sure you get the right person, then you won't have to wait as long or waste as much time in the turnover. Okay. But let's say we do that and we still have high turnover. Ask people in the restaurant business. Every single restaurant, it doesn't matter if you have terrible hiring practices or if you have the best hiring practices. Chick-fil-A is kind of considered a gold standard in the hiring practices. But even they will tell you they have pretty high turnover and pretty consistent turnover. It's just the way that happens in some industries. So what industry are you in, and what is your expectation of the turnover? People are people. I can't force them to stay. I can't force them to come in. I can make my place more attractive for them to be here, hopefully, but I can't force them into it. So maybe I just need a good system, and I need to ensure that I have a good hiring system in place. Um, and it may end up being that I need to outsource some of that hiring. There are places that will hire for you. There are places that will employ your employees for you. And they're your employees. You get to tell them what to do, but they get their paycheck, their W-2s from this other company that you pay, and they take care of everything else for you. It can be a very good way to go. You ultimately still have the final say in who comes into your company. So understanding what that is, I've got a tool that helps you out, helps you determine that. I've heard it called two different things. One is the 3 C's. You've got character, competency, and chemistry. So do they fit in with the company? The triple A, so 3 A's. That's authenticity and ability and not agreeable, acceptance. So same sort of thing, a little bit of nuanced differences, especially between the authenticity and the character. Sometimes someone may have a very high character, and that actually leads them to be a little bit inauthentic. And what I mean by that is we love employees who can handle a lot of things, especially in a smaller business. You're going to want them to handle a lot of things and wear different hats. And a lot of people are going to be willing to do that, wanting to help, truly having a good heart of trying to help from the goodness of their character, but they're doing things that aren't them. They weren't really made to do. There's a good tool out there called the Working Genius tool. Patrick Lencioni is the one that has that. It's got this 6 letters that spell out widget. And it essentially goes through the 6 phases of a job, a project, or something like that needs to be completed, and where people fall inside of those. And where they've designated it, they separate it out into, everybody has basically 2 core working geniuses. They like doing it, they're good at it. And then 2 competencies. So you're good at it, but if you have to live in it for too long, you'll get frustrated. But then you've got 2 working frustrations that it's hard to do. You can grind your teeth and get it done, but it's just not a good place to be. And by the way, widget stands for wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. So somebody may really, out of the character of their heart, want to help. And that would be like the enablement side of things, maybe even tenacity, getting things done, seeing things through all the way, but helping you out a lot. But really, that's either a frustration or it's just a thing they're competent in, but that's not where they really thrive. Okay. Other tools like the DISC assessment can be very helpful with this behavioral analysis, what people's tendencies are, what your tendency is. Word of warning, don't ever take any of this as this is who you are. Who we are is found in Christ. Our identity is found in Christ. Christ is all of these things to perfection. And if he's living in and through us, then he can enable us to do all these things to perfection as well. However, we still do live in a world that is tainted and marred by sin. And so we have these tendencies. And we have these places that we like to live and places that we get frustrated. And oftentimes, especially as we move our employees into those key roles, those key areas we want them to be in, and I'm really thinking about accountants right now, as we move them into those supervisory and managerial type roles, we want them to still do all this accounting work and lead other people at the same time. And there's almost this expectation that if you're not putting 60 hours a week in during the off season, then you're not truly committed. Well, what happens is those talented people come in. I'm just saying, this is what I've seen happen. Talented people come in, they're young, and they look and they see these partners and these managers live here. This is not where I want to live. I like the people, I like the environment, but I'm just not looking to do that. So count me out of trying to build me into those roles. And the more you put me into those roles, the more I'm going to skirt. I'm going to get out. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go find somewhere that will not work me as much, not expect as much out of me. So what am I putting onto my employees? How am I treating them? Is a big factor of whether or not they'll stay. But at the same time, I can't control them. I can only control what I can control. And that's a very important thing to keep in mind. Sometimes, some places just have high turnover, and that is what it is. Other times, it's because I'm not taking my time making sure I have the right people in place. Other times, I need to make some difficult decisions in the operations of my company in order to be able to keep people there, if that's where my priority is, if that's what I really need to do. It can be difficult. Those are hard decisions. These are the hard decisions that we have to make, right? Speaking of operations, though, let's say we're in a commodity kind of industry. We have a commoditized market or a crowded market even. How do we stand out in that? How do we stand out? It can be difficult sometimes depending on what you're doing. And the first question that I have is, do I have a product or do I have a service? And if I have one or the other, first of all, whichever one I have both. Just want to put that out there. In the accounting world, if I'm doing accounting, I'm still giving a product out, whether it's financial statements or tax returns or something. That there's a finished product that's going out there. If I'm in so that's the service world, right? Same thing with, plumbing. You have a finished product, right? Whether you finished repiping a house or if you've just finished repairing a toilet, you've got a finished product there. Same thing with a product that's put out. The experience that the customer has as they're going through it, that's going to be a service that they feel like they've gotten or not gotten. And depending on how you're selling it, that can go a long way. You can do more with that. There's always more that can be done. I'll share a couple of things in that field. First of all, in the accounting field, it can be very easy to get and for our employees to get so focused on the accuracy of everything that we kind of lose the fact that humans are involved. Honestly, it's like figuring out a puzzle and making sure that puzzle gets done and solving the problem, and then losing some of that compassion for people. So treating people like people. Okay, so I'm doing an estate return for someone, or I'm figuring out some estate tax implications. Okay. Typically that's because somebody has some considerations, whether that's somebody's already passed away or somebody is sick and trying to get affairs in order or something like that. Okay, how can I be a human and just kind of connect a little bit on that, see how things are going? They may not want to, and if they don't, they don't. We'll stay on topic. But I can reach out in that regard. If I'm going into someone's house doing a service, a plumbing or electrical or something like that, some sort of handyman repair, just saying, hey, a smile and a wave, introduce myself, hey, I'm so-and-so. That can be the technician that's doing that. Hey, my name's Adam. How are you? I'm going to be your technician today. Let me see what you got going on in your house. Make sure I've got everything clear and squared away. How long have you had the house? How long have you been in the area? Just small talk, things like that. Things that sometimes we discount. We think they're kind of wasted, but it can really improve the experience for people. Some people don't like it, and if they don't, you got to feel that out and make sure. But that's part of it in the service arena. And in the product arena, let's say I'm selling a fairly commoditized product. What's a way to stand out in that field? I'll use an example. I like disc golf. And I bought some discs from a particular manufacturer, and they've adjusted things over the years, but at least when I bought, I would purchase it online, and whoever fulfilled the order would leave just a quick note. Quick handwritten note, hand signed, and it would typically be something that would reflect the personality of that person. And it was neat just to see, okay, there's a human attached to this on the other side. And it was really more indicative of the culture of the entire company. Now, they also had quality product. So I want to put that out there. If you have terrible quality product, then it doesn't matter if you make those little gestures, because people are going to see your product's terrible and say, I know they're trying to make up for something here and it's not working. It could actually backfire on you. I have a friend who wrote a book called The Customer Experience Engine. It's called Make Your Brand Legendary. Check that out. Make Your Brand Legendary by Scott Wozniak. Subtitle is Creating Raving Fans with the Customer Experience Engine. And typically he works with larger companies and he looks at it from a larger corporate aspect and how people can, in the midst of a lot of commodity type things in these bigger corporations, how can people and how can companies stand out? How can they improve the customer experience? If you're a home builder, you think every home should meet certain minimum requirements, but maybe I'm leaving a handwritten note and a card on the counter for whoever bought that home. You know, the kitchen counter, here's your card, and just a card. Like, it could just be that. It could be something bigger gesture than that. And there's an example in that book that's a bigger gesture. But so what do you do? And start thinking creatively. Get some people who are good at wonder and invention to come in and start saying, hey, we could try this, we could try that. You know, what is it that would help people out? What is it that our business stands for? And how can we treat people, not just like people, but understanding, as C.S. Lewis puts it, that you've never met a mere mortal. Everyone is made in the image of God. God loved the world, everyone in it, so much that he sent his son, that whoever believes in him would not perish, but have eternal life. His son perished. Jesus suffered the entirety of sin and its consequences, became the curse for us on the cross so that we would not have to, and now lives in power and lives through us. And that love, that agape, unconditional love, should be reflected through us to others. Absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit. As we talked about the engine, we're shifting gears now, and we're going to talk about succession and exit planning and what are the tax implications of selling or gifting part of my business. Here's the main thing I'm going to do here, and I want to give you a piece of, probably the most important piece of tax advice I can give you, and that is consult your tax advisor. Whoever that is, whether that's your accountant, your CPA, get with your estate planner, get with whoever your lawyer is and your attorney for the business. Get them all on the same page and understand what it is that you're trying to do here, because it is a broad question. What are the tax implications? You could do something as simple as selling your business, and you may have some capital gains tax that goes into that. You may have other kinds of ordinary income tax that goes into that. You could have things that trickle down into the business itself, into you personally. That just depends on how it's structured, right? You could be gifting part of the business. Well, are you gifting it to a related party, someone like directly in your bloodline, your kid or your grandkid? Are you gifting it to a key employee? Are you gifting it to someone else completely unrelated? It all depends on what you're doing with it, because you could have certain gift and estate tax implications that come in that are broad, that are huge, depending on how much you're selling your business for, how much you're gifting, what the value of the business is that you're gifting, and the shares are that you're gifting, how you're disposing of your interest. There's all kinds of things that can go into it. So get with the right people and get them all on the same page. Let them talk to each other. Encourage them to talk to each other. That's one area that's good for me to give up control. Like oversight, yes, good, but not try to control everything and control who's talking and where the information's flowing. Let them all talk together and have the information flow amongst themselves. I can be in the room, maybe, but let them talk with each other. So what are the tax implications? They are potentially very many, potentially very few. It all depends on your situation. What about some other compliance type things? Talked a little bit about tax, but let's talk about audits, or even just missing out on certain deductions, right? A fear of audits, fear of maybe I'm missing out on certain deductions that I feel like I should be getting. I've gotten that question a lot over the years. And the answer is maybe. Maybe you are missing out on deductions, maybe not. First thing I want to do is look at your records. There's a good chance those records are not being kept in the way they should be. If that is the case, and I'll tell you, if you have set out to get into business, set out to open your own business, it's likely that you're a lot like me and not the record keeping type. In other words, you'll do it because you have to do it, but that is the last place you really want to spend your time. That does not feel like the most advantageous place for me to spend my time on records. However, it's amazing how much money it makes me having good records. It's amazing how much money it makes me. It could be that the person that you have keeping your records, whether it's yourself or if you've hired that out. By the way, if you're the one doing it, you probably should hire it out and oversee it. But that person may need a little more training. And that training can come in the form of just getting them together with whoever's preparing your taxes at the end of the year. And that person who's preparing your taxes and the person who's preparing your records, they get together, they meet, encourage them to meet, make sure they are getting that scheduled and meeting. And that means, yes, you'll have to pay the person and you'll have to pay your accountant or your tax preparer. That's okay, because it will make you far more money than what you'll spend. And that'll reduce greatly your fear of audits. Okay, we don't have a spirit of fear. We have a spirit of power and of love. That spirit is because we can go and we can attack this. So if my records are out of order, I can go attack it, I can address it, and I can get them into order. And I will. Reduce the fear of audits, reduce the fear of missing out on deductions by keeping better records. That, my goodness, 9 times out of 10, that is the answer that I've seen over the years. Absolutely. Speaking of audits, you get a letter in the mail from the IRS. Oh my goodness, I've got an audit. I've got to talk with the IRS from that, okay? You get a text message from the IRS, an email from the IRS. You're being audited. Probably not. So the first thing to do there is going to be to call the IRS and say, hey, I need to check my account and I need to be sure that this is accurate. This leads into the cybersecurity concerns, and that is, what do I do to better protect myself when it comes to cybersecurity? That's a huge thing in the accounting world for sure, but really all over. And the biggest thing you can do is not fall for phishing scams. So phishing scams are going to reach out to you, whether it's through your email, and you can always check and see the email of the sender. Is it from a legitimate source? What are they asking for? Are they asking for sensitive information? Are they trying to get you to open up a link or open up a PDF or anything like that? One of the biggest things, and I would recommend this transfers over from the accounting world. Don't accept PDFs through email or through text messages. Don't accept PDFs that way. Have some sort of a portal where somebody can send you whatever it is they need to send you. And that's whether it's for accounting and tax stuff, or if somebody needs to send you pictures of their house because you need to prepare for what you're going to find there, then have them send it through some sort of a portal. Those things usually are not very expensive at all to set up and very secure for both parties. They help protect the other person's information and protect you from getting spam things. If somebody needs to send you a design, because that's part of what you do in your process, and they have a design for what they need, have them send it through a portal, upload it through a portal. It also helps because now you've got cloud storage, you've got backup of your information and your records as well. And then just have a blanket policy that we will not open any links or files that come through email, period. And let people know that. If somebody sends you a link or a file through email, say, hey, we don't open these through email, so if you'll just upload it through the portal, then we'll be able to check it from there and appreciate it. And treat people like humans. That's going to go so much farther for you than anything else. And then most computers, like the actual computer itself, they're protected pretty well based on the software that you have, whether it's Apple or Windows, Linux. I can't speak to Linux that much. I've tried to play around with it and I'm just, no thanks. But something to note about Windows, Microsoft has a good antivirus, but they update it. And they update their Windows security. I believe it's every Tuesday as of the recording of this. So make sure you're restarting and updating your computer every Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning before you get started with work. And if you do that, you're ahead of the majority of people out there. Because it's just going to be a constant thing. People are going to find new ways to try to get your information. So you don't need an internal IT expert, but you just need kind of some basic protocols. And if you need to find somebody to help you out with that, that's fine too. But just do a quick search, be like, hey, what are some basic things that I can do, basic steps to take to be more secure in this particular industry that I'm in, because it can be very industry specific. Depending on, like, if you're taking credit card information, you may be subject to certain things that you have to keep secured in a certain way, whereas somebody else may not, because they're not directly taking that. They're just, somebody else is taking the credit card information, they're receiving the order and going out from there. So there are things that can go into that as well. Last but not least, if you're a business owner, and you've ever said, I feel like I'm wearing too many hats, then yeah, you probably are. And yeah, that might come with the territory. Sometimes that's just what has to be done. The way to get around that is to hire it out. Hire pretty much everything out. In the end, though, it's up to me to oversee everything. Delegate, but not abdicate. It's also good to have good counsel around me, good people to come in, like Jethro did with Moses, when Moses is leading the people out in the wilderness and Jethro says, hey, Moses, you're taking on too much. Everybody's coming to you with everything. You need to start delegating this out. Choose wise men that you have among you and start putting them in place to be able to make good judgments for people. Who do you have in your employee right now? Who are you employing in your business that you can elevate to those statuses of taking over some more parts of the business? People that are trusted, people that are faithful, that you're being able to teach, and they'll be able to teach others also. That principle of teaching faithful men, that comes straight from Scripture. And obviously it's talking about the gospel and entrusting the gospel to faithful men who can teach others also. Do you think if it can apply to something as important as our eternal destiny, that it could apply to our businesses as well? I think so. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say that's probably a good principle for me to use in my business as well. So if I'm wearing too many hats, let me get with some people. Let me find somebody who's been there. Let me find somebody, even if they haven't been there, just somebody who's a different set of eyes that can look at it and say, yeah, it looks like you're wearing too many hats in this area. Somebody who can help me discern the working genius profile, the DISC assessment. I am DISC certified, DISC, the behavioral analysis. I'm certified in that, and I'd be happy, more than happy to help you out with it. If you feel like you're taking on too much or you're wearing too many hats, then it's likely that you are. And there are likely ways to be able to get around that. It may take money, may take time, may have to push through it and overcome until you get there. But there are ways to get out of it. So again, this has that kind of wraps it up for me. And this has been the Wednesday Q&A. So I hope this has helped. That's the again part. Again, I hope this has helped. I hope this has provided some value to you. Would love to hear from you. Leave a comment, shoot a email over to me, info@greenhouse, GREENE. It's greenhouseghs.com. Info@greenhouseghs.com. Come check out brilliantfools.com. That is being built out as we speak, and hopefully there'll be some good stuff on there soon, as well as at Greenhouse GHS. That's where you can reach out to me directly through the contact form, schedule a call with me. Love talking about this stuff. Be more than happy to talk with you and see if there's anything that you need that goes farther, that you need to get a little bit deeper with, so that we can build our businesses together to really be a part of what it is that God is doing in the world for his glory, to bring people to him, to spread the gospel, affect the eternal destinies of people, growing together. So yeah, step into the greenhouse. Let's grow together. Thanks.